Today I want to get into this Idaho murder that happened in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022, involving 4 college students.
But here's what we know as of this afternoon. On Sunday, just before noon, someone called 911 to report an unconscious person at a home on King Road in Moscow. That's where police found the 4 victims: Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Gonsalves.
The victims' names, one was Kaylee, which means laurel or crown, which is corona. And her friend's name was Madison, which means Matthew's son. And Ethan was another one. His name means firm, enduring, strong, and long-lived. And the other is Xana with an X, which is divine or to shine. And so a reference again to Shining One. Xana is short for Xanadu. And I already did a video about Olivia Newton-John and Xanadu. And Xanadu is X, home. Home is where the heart is. Planet Nibiru. Kernodle means victorious. Also, kern is crown, corona, and it's kernel or nut. Nodal is noodle, the head. Madison Mogen. Mogen comes from mag, which is to have power, to be able. Kaylee Gonsalves. Gonsalves means saved from combat. She's crowned, anointed, and her sister is Olivia, so she is saved from battle of the thoughts in the head. Chapin means shoemaker, and shoemaker is also tied to bind. To bind is vav.
We know there were 2 other roommates in the home at the time of the murders, and when police got there, they were not hurt, and police say they are cooperating. Moscow police wouldn't go so far, though, as to call them witnesses. And
they wouldn't call them witnesses, yet there are 2 of them. These are the 2 witnesses of the Bible. Some say these are the 2 physical eyes, but the Bible says these are the 2 olive trees, the 2 lampstands, the olivary bodies in the brain.
Yesterday, the coroner's office released the autopsies and found all 4 were stabbed to death with a knife early Sunday morning. Police have not found a suspect or suspects and don't have any people of interest right now. An investigative reporter, Morgan Romero, joins us live here on the news at 4. Morgan, I know you've been digging into this. What have you learned?
University of Idaho. University is the universe. Ida means to work, ergon, to do, the demiurge. In Greek mythology, there are 2 sacred mountains called Mount Ida, the mountain of the goddess. Crete's Mount Ida is the island's highest summit, sacred to the goddess Rhea, and wherein lies the legendary Idaean cave, in which baby Zeus was concealed from his father Cronus. Remember, all of this is allegory for the brain. When you put Moscow into the etymology, it pulls up the word musk. But basically, Moscow means marshy place, dark waters, mossy plain, or gnat. And in the last couple of videos that I did, breaking down these sorts of events, marsh land or swamp or dark waters was a code.
We did learn today, Shira, that the Latah County coroner believes it's likely that at least some of the 4 victims were asleep at the time. She wouldn't specify which of the 4 victims. We also know that this happened in the early morning hours of Sunday. That is confirmed. The coroner tells 7 investigates bed sheets were taken from the home for testing, but she couldn't speak to any defensive wounds or the specific time of death on Sunday morning. Police put out a clearer picture of the hours leading up to the attack. They released a timeline and the locations of where all 4 victims were before they were murdered at their home on King Road in Moscow.
Okay, so it's pretty amazing that they know precisely where they are at what times. But again, I think this is just paving the way to track our every move so that people feel safe. So some of the words that were emphasized here: bed sheets, kind of odd. They were sleeping. Sleep can be analogous to meditation.
This horrific attack on 4 college students happened less than a mile from the University of Idaho campus. Sororities and fraternities and their out-of-houses are mostly centralized in this area. New information from Idaho State Police reveals 2 of the victims, Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle, were together.
Ethan and Xana is EX, and Sigma Chi also looks like an EX in terms of symbols. So sometimes when you look at words or letters or numbers, you can also derive its meaning from the symbols. Sigma is the Greek letter S, Chi is the letter X. Sigma originates from the Phoenician or Hebrew letter shin, which is tooth or fire, the fire within that transforms. It grinds down the old to make way for the new. That I am, the God within. Chi is X, often used to refer to Christ. It's named after the optic chiasm in the brain, where the two optic nerves meet next to the pituitary gland.
Saturday night, November 12th. They went to a Sigma Chi fraternity party across from their home on King Road from 8 to 9 p.m. The other two victims, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, were at the Corner Club on Main Street. It's about a mile and a half away from the home on King Road. Police say they were there from around 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. After leaving the bar, the girls went to the grub truck just down Main Street from the Corner Club. It's about a 6-minute walk. They're seen in a video from the food truck, ordering food.
Okay, so some of the times that we have here, the first one we have is 8 to 9 p.m., which is an 8. 8 plus 9 is 8. 8 is the infinity loop. 10 to 1:30, and that's 113, which would be your 33. The other thing is, too, that they are at the Corner Club, which is CC 33. The next time we have is 14, which is 2 sevens. You start with your infinity loop, you're stuck in time. 33 is your Christ consciousness, you rise out of time, and you are in heaven, 7-7. This is on Main Street, so 33 and 14 being on Main Street. Main would be the middle pillar. It's right in between these two main roads as well. They live in a house on King Street. So king is what you become when you're Christed or anointed. So you become kinged or crowned. And Kaylee's name is Crown. So already we have quite a lot of signifiers here that tie into Christ consciousness.
It's about a 6-minute walk. They're seen in a video.
6-minute walk. So 6 being base consciousness. 666.
The food truck, ordering food around 1:40 Sunday morning. U of I students tell us it's a common weekend routine to go from the Corner Club to the food truck.
They go from the Corner Club CC 33 to the food truck grub truck GT 77. It is by raising the Kundalini up the spine 33 to the pineal that you come face to face with God 77.
Idaho State Police says all 4 victims were back at the King Road house, a little more than a mile from the food truck.
They keep showing this massive eye on the water tower, and a possible explanation for this is that the water tower represents the middle pillar. Enki is the water god. He's the messenger of the gods. The eye is the eye, E-Y-E, of the pineal gland, and it's yellow because it's lit up.
By 1:45 a.m., Sunday, November 13th.
They live at 1122 King Road. So this event happened before November 22nd, obviously. November 22nd was a significant event, and I covered that already. November 22nd is also 1122, which is 33. But also 11/22, 1963 was the day JFK was assassinated, shot in the head. And shot in the head is the pineal gland being activated by raising the Kundalini energy, which is represented by 33 CC, Christ consciousness. 11/22/1 is also 22/3, which is VC, the reverse of CV, which is the skull and bones, 322. The date of the spring equinox, which is a representation of death and rebirth, which is when Jesus is resurrected as Christ, die to the physical, and you're resurrected. I did a video on that on my main channel if you'd like to go see it. 11/22, JFK shot in the head, Jack in the Box, that represents the awakening of the pineal gland. So I believe this event was a prelude to November 22nd. It was an indicator that there was something coming on the 22nd. Just like the other events that happened on the 8th of the month were indicators that something was going to happen on November 8th. Some of these events do foreshadow other events that are to come, and some of them are directly connected to one another. All of them are telling the same story. They all tell the story of 911, the emergency, the rise into Christ consciousness, the second coming of Christ, the return of Christ consciousness. All of the stories are the same.
What unfolded after that is unclear. It wasn't until noon on Sunday police received a call of an unconscious person.
At noon on Sunday, they got a call, a 911 call of an unconscious person. Unconscious means that you don't see. You haven't risen. Your third eye's not open. At the age of 12, Jesus began his mission. So this is at noon. Those two numbers could be directly connected.
Home on King Road, they found the 4 victims, Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie, dead. They confirm all 4 were stabbed early Sunday morning. The Latah County coroner tells us all the victims could have been killed with the same knife or a very similar knife. Police say they haven't yet found the weapon.
And police are telling students and residents they shouldn't be concerned for their own safety. But that is hardly reassuring for the rattled community or for the victims' families who are vowing to find the assailant.
They keep mentioning this phrase, "we will find you," so it must have some significance. In gematria or numerology, it reduces to 7, 7 being the number for God. And so if they're going to find God, this is the same as together to get her.
Olivia watched the video.
Kaylee was aware of her surroundings, maybe a little.
So her sister's name is Olivia. I did a whole video on Olivia. Represents the olivary glands, which is what is hit by the Kundalini energy before it releases the oil that anoints your third eye. It's probably why there's an Olivia here.
Overly aware, which is also why all of this is so confusing to us, because Kaylee's not stupid. She's a smart girl. She's a strong girl. She's a mean girl. She's a fighter.
The night began at around 10:30 p.m. when the friends took an Uber to a downtown bar called the Corner Club. It was a party atmosphere, with Kaylee and Madison described as being in good spirits. They left a little after 1 a.m., and that's when they stopped by the food truck. 1:56 a.m., the girls take an Uber home. They were stabbed to death between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. that morning.
So 1:56 is 6-6. 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. is a 7, or if it's between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., halfway is 3:30. It
was very, very traumatic. Yeah.
Have you seen anything like that before?
No.
Her name is Kathy, my butt. Okay.
Anything like that before?
No.
Police have not identified any suspects and are appealing for calm today as frightened students flee the campus. Say the murders were targeted. It's being called a possible crime of passion. Another theory is that it's a burglary gone wrong.
Okay, so here they say it was targeted. Halfway through, their story changed to that it wasn't targeted. Targeted equals aim for the bullseye, the pineal gland, third eye, Osiris. Crime of passion is equal to it's about the love story between Isis and Osiris. Burglary gone wrong could mean that it's failed at thieving the gold. It's unable to open the vault. And I'll explain this a little bit more at the end.
Ruled out murder-suicide. Kaylee and Madison were inseparable, lifelong friends. They grew up.
They're standing in front of a birthday sign. Birthday is a recurring theme because it's about birth into the new world.
Together, close as sisters. In a statement, Kaylee's family...
Okay, I know this is going to sound weird, but they keep showing pictures of these girls with bare shoulders, and I don't know what it means, but I know it means something. They're almost twins. They're wearing dresses with an off-the-shoulder or their bare shoulder. They're both blonde.
...is speaking directly to the killer. We will find you. We will never stop. The pain you caused has fueled our hatred and sealed your fate. Ethan Chapin's parents are also speaking out.
There's not drugs involved. There's not some weird love triangle. We will not let this sink us or sink our kids.
Weird love triangle could be a reference to Delta. Delta is the joining of the male and female with love, the love triangle.
Because if anything, they have to go on and shine Ethan's bright light.
She mentions Ethan's bright light to shine, shining one.
On their own.
The day of the murders, the doomed friends posed for this photo, along with 2 other students. Kaylee posted, "One lucky girl to be surrounded by these people every day."
Kaylee, whose name means crown, posted this. One lucky girl, lucky is Lucifer, to be surrounded by these people. But the only word she did not spell out was people, PPL. The peephole, the power pole, the PP. This is the spine, the center vortex of the torus. P-pole is the apple.
Well, what we do know that I find most interesting is about the fixed blade knife. They haven't been able to answer whether or not there was more than one knife. That's all going to be in the autopsy. But when we look at the photos of the Rambo-style hunting knife, that tells us something very specific about this perpetrator, especially because it doesn't appear to be an impulsive crime where a knife was taken from the kitchen and left at the scene. They haven't recovered the knife. They are looking at all the cars that were left in the area. But one of the more interesting things that I've read just in the last 24 hours is that most indices are that the perpetrator entered through the back door, through the sliding glass doors.
Glass door, back door. The school shooting that I covered was a side door and it was a glass door and they shot the door. The Club Q shooting was a glass door and they shot the door. So they haven't mentioned broken glass yet. But the fact is that these events have repeatedly featured a glass door that's either a back door or a side door, not the main door. Door is a portal, door is delta, and the woman just mentioned love triangle, which is delta. Typically, door just means there's a barrier, especially glass. There's a glass barrier that is the walls of Jericho. The glass door being on the side or at the back is a reference to the entrance to the third ventricle of the brain. This is why the murder happened on the third floor in the bedroom, because the third ventricle is also called a bedroom.
We know that the police said there was no sign of forced entry, no pry marks. Initially people thought perhaps the perpetrator came through the front door, that it was left ajar, but then we found out people arrived at the scene before the 911 phone call was made. So the backdoor theory, the idea that somebody may have come through the woods down the precipice, really does fit.
Came in through the woods. Wood is Odin. Odin is the third eye. Down the precipice is a reference to the rock. It's a face of a rock that is in front of the vault, which is why they entered through the back door to try to get into the fornix. Even though she said there were no signs of forced entry, they also said it was like a robbery gone wrong. This guy tried to force the awakening, which is why these four were slain in their sleep, killed during meditation.
With what we know about these kinds of predatory crimes, and really opens it up to the possibility that it is a stranger homicide.
Well, and you take me to my next point, Casey, because there have been some high-profile missteps. Investigators first saying this was targeted and now saying it wasn't targeted. How have those...
They changed their story from it being targeted to it not being targeted. This could be a reference to the robbery gone wrong because he missed the bullseye. He couldn't enter the fornix.
Potentially impacted or hampered the investigation.
You're right. They've been saying lately that it was a miscommunication.
A miscommunication also ties into a robbery gone wrong. It suggests the missing of the target because the pineal gland was not opened. The messenger is the third eye.
But it's really cost a lot for them with regard to public trust. Initially, we heard the words, it was a crime of passion. It was targeted. Now they have...
Okay, see, here's another off-the-shoulder shirt photo.
Backpedaled and said, well, maybe it's not targeted victim, maybe it was a targeted location. So tips coming in and opening the circumference of their investigation to nearby states in case this person is mobile is going to be critical. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar crime out there in the coming months if we don't catch this perpetrator soon.
Here's another off-the-shoulder shot. This is all very new. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before, so I don't know what it means, and if you know what it is, please leave it in the comments because I've never seen this before, but I know it's saying something. They don't put this in here by mistake. So what does it mean? One such possible answer is from MasonicLodgeofEducation.com, and one of the rules of etiquette in the lodge is shouldering the work. It is good Masonic etiquette to accept a request made in the name of the lodge if it is within your abilities. A lodge is a working beehive of industry. A request made of you from your lodge acknowledges that the lodge trusts you to competently fulfill such a request based on your knowledge. So to me, it's possible that this is a signal of Freemasons participating in shouldering the work and doing their part, much like the rolled up pant leg or the dropped shoe it is an indicator that they're doing their part.
The results are pending, though the deaths have been ruled homicides. Investigators think that an edged weapon like a knife was used.
The edged weapon is the sword. I will explain this later.
And that this was an isolated, targeted attack. Police say there are no suspects in custody and motives remain unclear.
No motive means the amygdala was shut down.
The mayor telling the New York Times it may have been a crime of passion, but later saying we don't really know what it was.
So the date of the establishment of the University of Idaho is 1889, so it has 2 8s in the middle, referring to the Lion's Gate.
The police department saying there is no imminent threat to the community, but many are rattled.
It's all just shocking and scary.
The victims' families heartbroken and wanting answers.
There was no reason. There's no dark past. There's no dark secrets.
21-year-old Kaylee Gonzalez's sister says the senior was a bright light with an even brighter future.
She had everything going for her, absolutely everything. She had a job lined up. She had worked really hard for it. She had trips planned. Her smile lit up the room.
Kaylee is the crown. Her smile lit up the room. She was a bright light. She was a shining one.
Arrested. That's 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger in custody today.
Brian Christopher Koberger. Brian is brain, Christopher is Christ bearer, and Koberger is Coal Mountain.
And wearing an anti-suicide vest. Police documents obtained by Inside Edition show he is awaiting extradition to Idaho for the brutal murders of the 4 University of Idaho students. Here's Stephen Fabian.
The arrest went down here in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, some 2,500 miles away.
So first of all, this is really bad green screen. He's standing in front of Indian Mountain Lake. India means India, which is in between or in God. Mountain refers to mountain in the middle of the head, or Coal Mountain. He's in Albright, Pennsylvania. Albright is shining one, the city of light, city of luz. The city of light is what happens when your pineal gland is activated and you come face to face with God. He's 2,500 miles away from the murder, which is 2 5s or 7, or 2 5s is omega, the head. This is also the number that was on the pizza box in the Andrew Tate drama.
From the murder scene in Idaho, the FBI and a police SWAT team raided a home in this private gated community behind me.
Private gated community, the gate, the 88 gate, the Lion's Gate, the gate of Ishtar.
Around 3 a.m., Koberger reportedly had a blank stare as he was arrested and also asked if anyone else had been taken into custody. Now we're also learning that a white Elantra, like the one police had been searching for, was impounded. Koberger will remain in custody behind bars here in Pennsylvania.
Koberger will remain behind bars. The bars could be the twin pillars within the fornix of the brain.
Until an extradition hearing next Tuesday.
Of 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, stabbed to death in their beds in a crime that has horrified and mystified the nation. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News a 28-year-old man, Brian Koberger, is now under arrest in connection with the killings.
28 is 2 8s for the 88 gate, the Lion's Gate. Koberger was arrested on December 30th, which is 33, and it happened 47 days after the event on November 13th. 47 is the gematria code for pizza box. Pizza box was connected to the Andrew Tate event.
We're told authorities arrested Koberger thousands of miles from Idaho in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, and that a SWAT team entered the location where he was staying.
It's in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. Monroe is connected to Marilyn Monroe, which has been connected to the JFK incident. Marilyn Monroe was also connected to the burned bridge incident.
And took him into custody this morning. This comes more than 6 weeks after investigators say University of Idaho roommates were all stabbed to death in the girl's off-campus house.
Also, the suspect lived in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is known as the Keystone State.
So clearly everybody has been highly involved in this. They're not leaving one stone unturned. And
now she mentions they're not leaving one stone unturned, while outside of the house there's a massive stone.
Koberger graduated with a master's degree in criminal justice from DeSales University in Pennsylvania. The owner of a nearby brewery telling NBC News staff had added notes that would pop up when Kohlberger's ID was scanned. Hey, this guy makes creepy comments. Keep an eye on him.
So it's very strange that they mentioned this bar nearby that he happened to frequent so often that these people actually knew who he was and had notes on him. This is a sign of pre-crime. Also, this pub is called the Seven Sirens, SS for your 66. Seven Sirens also is connected with the Pleiades. It's a brewing company, which is the Leavening. So this could be also connected to the Muses, and the Muses are involved in stimulating the olivary glands that secrete the Christos oil, as I showed in the Olivia Newton-John video.
We continue to learn more about the man arrested for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Laura Engel with Fox News joins us from Monroe County, Pennsylvania, outside the jail where he is being held. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a huge development, obviously, in the story that has lasted nearly 7 weeks with the hunt for the suspect.
She says it lasted nearly 7 weeks. 7 times 7, 7.
Excuse me, I just wanted to show you the front page of the New York Post as this headline finally has come out. Headline of an arrest that people have waited so long for. And the reason that you see Criminal Mind is because we have now learned that the suspect, 28-year-old Brian Kohlberger.
Criminal mind. He had a criminal mind, which is probably why he was arrested at the top of the spine for 33. One needs a pure mind in order to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Was studying criminology, and what's really interesting in these last few hours is that former and current classmates of his at University of Washington are coming forward and talking about what he was like recently in school.
So here's the rock I was talking about that's outside their home that they feature.
What he was like, former classmates talking about what he was like in high school. A lot of people said that he felt bullied, he was a bully, he was aggressive at times, he was socially awkward. But one of the most interesting things that a student told the New York Post, that we're actually in an email exchange with right now, is that after the murders, he went to his criminology class and took part in a discussion. He was in the room as students were talking about the Idaho murders and how odd it was and how come there was no evidence and what do we think is happening and are we in danger? And he sat there through that conversation, that group discussion, according to this student, and said that he was quiet, he was deadpan, and obviously are alarmed now knowing that the killer was sitting right among them.
It's a little odd that they have this information and they have so much detail, that he was sitting in the classroom prior to his arrest, calmly just listening to people talk about the event. Obviously, this is part of the show.
One of the other things that has happened here in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, is that search for the white Elantra. That for so long we have been seeing a picture of the white Elantra.
The white Elantra means the beaming sun. It's also closely connected to Electra, which was a name of one of the Pleiades. So that connects back to the Seven Sirens bar.
Where police in Idaho thought that there could be a connection. They wanted to talk to somebody. Lo and behold, when they made that arrest at 3 a.m. on Friday morning at his parents' house.
So the arrest was made at 3 a.m. on Friday, December 30th. So it's 333.
With the Pennsylvania State Police, they did find a white Elantra. Is it the same one? They can't confirm it, but they were looking for one. They found him, and there are reports that genetic genealogy is what led investigators to hone in on this suspect and how they were able to finally put everything together, track him down, and make the arrest.
Okay, this is one of the first cases that I have seen where they have gotten the public involved in trying to solve the crime on such a mass scale. So many people have been involved as an amateur sleuth trying to solve this crime. The reason they wanted to do that was to get people involved in pre-crime. Also, they just said that the reason they caught this guy was because of DNA matching through genealogy. These websites like 23andMe that we have been convinced is just there for you to go and find out who you're related to and what your genealogy is and what your genetic makeup is going to be used against you. It was a ruse to collect your DNA so that they have a database of everybody for their pre-crime system. If you want to know more about pre-crime, I will leave a link to a video I have done about this. The other thing I wanted to point out was, it seems like there's something of a countdown happening here. At the beginning of most of these news reports, they say, it's been 5 days, it's been 3 days, it's been 3 weeks since this event happened.
It has now been more than 3 days.
It's been 5 days.
Tomorrow will mark 3 weeks since they were killed while they slept.
This comes more than 6 weeks.
Story that has lasted nearly 7 weeks with the hunt for the suspect.
I've done a number of these types of events, and they have never done that before. They've never consistently tracked the number of days it's been. The other thing that is odd, that seems to be tied into this sort of countdown, is, so 4 people died in this event, 5 people died in the Club Q shooting, 6 people died in the Walmart shooting, but that's also a form of a countdown. Okay, so what does this all mean? The murder happened in Moscow, Idaho, November 13th, which is 9/13. 13 is the sun number, 12 signs of the zodiac, and the sun. They were killed in a house that's numbered 1122, which could be connected to November 22nd, which is the same day that JFK was shot in the head. The 3rd floor represents the 3rd ventricle. The murder happened on the 3rd floor, 3rd ventricle of the brain. Brian means brain. Christopher means Christ bearer. Kohlberger means coal mountain. This is all a reference to the brain, bringing the Christos oil to the pineal gland to light the lamp. He was driving a white Elantra. The Elantra is symbolic of the Kundalini electrical energy that rises from the root to the top of the spine to light the lamp. The Elantra can also be connected to Electra, which was the name of one of the Pleiades. He was a frequent visitor to a bar called the Seven Sirens, which is also connected to the Pleiades. Olivia Newton-John was a muse. A muse represents the stimulation of the olivary glands, which is why her name was Olivia. One of the victims, Kaylee, sister's name was Olivia or Olivia. Kaylee, which means crown or corona. When one is anointed with the olive oil, one is crowned. There were also 2 people living downstairs at the house who were not really considered witnesses, who represent the olivary bodies as well. Because they were not considered witnesses, this suggests that perhaps there was no oil in the lamp. Also, the bar was a brewery, which represents the leavening. You put pressure on us to rise. You put pressure on carbon to become a diamond. He drove from Moscow to Monroe, Pennsylvania. Monroe is my dear. Monroe is also connected to Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was also connected to JFK. She sang happy birthday to him, and this was brought up again at the Crimea bridge blast, which happened October 8th. I did a video on that also. Happy birthday is a reference to being reborn, which is what happens when you are Christed, anointed, kinged. JFK was the king of Camelot. King Arthur represents the sun. Jesus, Camelot was King Arthur's castle, Cast-el. To cast is to throw or to form in a mold. This is man made of the dust of the earth, and El is God. So to be king of the castle is to be a god man. Now, my deer represents horns, unicorn, deer, corona, crown, cerebellum, cervix. It's also the fornix, the horn in the head. Pennsylvania is known as the Keystone State. It entered the Union in 1787, which is 887. 88 is the 88 gate, the Lion's Gate, and only the Kundalini energy can enter the gate. The sun energy, the sun between the 2 gates. One of the 8 gates is the Ishtar gate. The other is Mercury. The keystone is in front of the cave that Jesus was buried in, and it is rolled away by the angel. The angel is an angle of light. The angle of light is the Kundalini energy that rises up the spine into the brain and activates the pineal gland and lights the lamp. The angel is also the fornix. It is the shape of an angel or a butterfly. The fornix is the deer or the horns. It's also the bars. So he was arrested at 3-3, which is 33, the top of the spine. He was arrested. He was stopped. He was stopped at the top of the spine because he had a criminal mind. One cannot enter the kingdom of heaven without a pure mind. You can only enter the vault as Christ energy. Somebody said this much better than I did, and it is Bill Donahue. So let me play you a piece of his video for you. So this comes from Bill Donahue's video 562 called Jacob's Ladder.
It says in Genesis chapter 28, verse 13, where we're at, it says, "And behold, the Lord stood above it. God stands at the top of the ladder, which is the higher mind." And in verse 18, it says, Jacob took the stone he used for a pillow. Look what it says in verse 18. "And he took the stone that he had put for his pillow, and he set it up for a pillar, and poured oil on top of it." The stone is the pineal stone. And the oil is the chrism, which raises itself from the solar plexus up the spinal canal. And when it touches the pineal, the oil is poured on that stone which Jacob put at the top. And there's the holy place.
The arrest went down here in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, some 2,500 miles away.
Albrightsville represents the city of light. Luz is the city of light. Luz has double meaning: the almond tree or nut tree and the city of light. It's called a nut tree because nut is nux, is night. It's called the fornix because it's fornix. The almond tree is literally in the brain. It is the amygdala, which is responsible for motivation. This is why so many events lately have had no motive. Finally solved that one. And emotions such as fear and aggression. Deep breathing and meditation or no thought turns off the amygdala. Almond is also connected to the word lover. Almond is the mountain of God. Mond means mound or mountain, and Al is El, God or light. God is found at the top of the stairs. These events are telling us that we need to shut down our fear and aggression in order to enter the house of God. Kernodle means nut head. Kaylee was in good spirits. Coburger is Coal Mountain. Idaho is Mount Ida, the head, where ideas are formed. Mount of Olives are the two witnesses. Wouldn't call them witnesses, means no oil in the lamp. The city of light is also called Bethel in the Bible. Beth is house and El is God. This is the lighthouse, house of God. The lighthouse is also the White House. That's why the president was shot in the head. Luz means shine, gleam, flash of star, lightning. So Luz is the city of light. Lucy, lucky, Lucifer, one is illuminated, a shining one. Kaylee, the crowned girl, said she's so lucky to be surrounded by these people, the power pole, the PP, the apple.
Genesis chapter 28 and verse 19. And it says, "And he called the name of the place Bethel." But it was called Luz at first. You know what Luz means? Means nut tree. Means nut tree. And here I have a combination of two things, ancient mythology and Kabbalah. You know who Nut was, besides us? The Egyptian sky goddess. The goddess of the mind. The goddess of the mind. That's why you call people a nut. Nut was the Egyptian sky goddess. The goddess of the mind. And the tree is the tree is the tree of life. So the nut tree is the tree of life, which is activated by that which is the goddess, the feminine spiritual principle of the higher mind. Becomes what? The feminine spiritual principle of the higher mind, Luz, becomes Bethel, the house of God.
Luz in Hebrew is lamed vav zayin. Lamed means love, El, light, God. Vav means nail, connector. It also represents the straight light from God to man. These two lights touch within the brain just as depicted in the Sistine Chapel painting. This is the light that streams from the fornix to the pineal. Zayin represents the returning light. It is the crowned Vav. Just as a woman of valor is the crown of her husband, so Zayin, the seventh letter of the alphabet, is the crown of Vav. Husband is free man and has been a code in many events lately. Crowned is anointed, kinged. This represents the Christ within, Jesus, after he has been anointed with the Christos oil. Zayin means weapon or sword, and its root means food or nourishment. In the spiritual sense, in order to be nourished and at rest, we must sometimes be at war. Jesus said he came with a sword to divide. Matthew 10:34, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Zayin is the crowned man equipped with a sword of the Holy Spirit. Dalet or delta is 4. Gimel or C is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7, which is Zayin. Zayin represents 7 and a sword. It is used to divide or cut up time into units of 7. This is why the reporters kept counting the number of days and weeks since the event happened. It ended up being 6 weeks and 5 days from the event to the arrest, which is 47 days. 4 represents the letter D, 7 represents the letter G, God. G and D are united, crowned, kinged. And this is an excerpt from his video 585, The Groin to the Skull.
And you'll see exactly why you're meditating. You'll see exactly what the Kundalini does. That energy which comes up like winding stores takes that up and sparks the pineal, and then a straight line rolls to the fornix, which is the angle of light which causes that stone to roll.
The reports kept saying that it was a crime of passion, yet it wasn't targeted. How does that make any sense? If something is a crime of passion, then you are targeting someone specific. Crime of passion could refer to not losing the ego, as the ego seeks passion. It could also refer to the love affair between Osiris and Isis. To get her, together, we will find you, seeking God. It's a crime because he failed to do so.
So when you hear Osiris, you're talking about the open eye. Okay? That's anointing the head with oil. And the electrical energy of Kundalini is what brings the oil to the fornix. It is the electrical energy that brings it up to the olive. And when that olive oil then is charged with this electricity, then it becomes riding up the stria pinealis to the fornix to open up the door. See, in Matthew 25 it says the door was shut. And the virgins came knocking on the door. Let us in by my hair, my chin, chin. No, I will not let you in. The door is shut. The fornix is sealed. Why is the fornix sealed?
They said it was a burglary gone wrong. It was targeted, then not targeted. And there was a miscommunication. So 3 things would indicate that this is what not to do, forcing the awakening. The burglary gone wrong is trying to thieve the gold. You're unable to open the vault, the fornix. You're trying to steal the gold with no oil in the lamp. It went from targeted to not targeted, which means he missed the bullseye. The third eye is not open. It was a miscommunication. Communication is the messenger God, which is the third eye or Mercury. The pineal was not opened, and the fornix could not be opened either.
The fornix is sealed because only those who have oil in the lamp, which is the pineal, can get in. Because only they can see.
This murderer entered by the back door into the 3rd floor where he murdered these people in the bedroom. So the 3rd floor is the 3rd ventricle of the fornix, which can be only accessed by Amen, which is why it is called foramen.
Fornix, a vault-like space. All right? Fornix is a vault-like space. Now, if you turn over to the next page, page 14a, you look at the word thalamus. And thalamus is forms the lateral wall of the 3rd ventricle. says thalamus is a bedroom. It's a chamber. It's the bridal chamber. When you look sometime at Psalms 19, it talks about the son, which is a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. And the Song of Songs talks about the bedroom and our bed is green, all talking about your brain, the activity going on in your brain.
This is a clip from Bill Donahue's episode 582 called Third Floor Temple Brain.
Remember, the very first thing we looked at in 1 Kings 6:8 is the energy goes into the middle chamber, and the fornix is located directly in the middle. It is directly in the center. It is the middle vault. In other words, it's a vault. It's a place where something sacred, something powerful, something so valuable is kept, and it's inside of you. And it says in Ezekiel 40, the steps went up, and there were pillars by the posts, and on this side, and another on that side. And this fornix has front pillars, and the fornix has front pillars with a straight line to what we read there that goes to the pineal gland. How important is it then for your meditation when that solar energy rises up and impacts the pineal gland? What's so important about that? What's the big deal about that? Well, we just learned that the pineal gland has a straight line which goes to the vault where that special, holy, secret, wonderful, powerful stuff is kept within you, waiting. And when enough energy hits, what caused this energy? What caused the energy to make the stone roll away so Jesus comes out in this myth? What made it happen? It was the power of the angel. The angel rolled the stone away. Don't you understand what's being said to you? The angle of the electromagnetic field, the energy, the angle that hits this fornix causes the stone to roll away, and the power that is within that fornix, which the power that the God Creator placed in there for you to find, will burst forth and come out.
So once again, we have an event that is a coded message regarding raising the Christos oil and entering the kingdom of heaven. It is also a cautionary tale of what not to do if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay, this was much longer and much more involved than I thought it would be, but it was well worth it. I hope you enjoyed this video and you watched to the end. If you liked this video, please show your support for my channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment, contribute. Visit all my other channels and my website or Discord group. All the links are in the description box below. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great day. Bye for now.